got the whole crew, right? It's 8:42 now, and it is time to check in on your money and find out what today's government data dump is doing to Wall Street. We're into one of those weeks where the government does something interesting every day, and sometimes the reaction's happy, sometimes it's not happy, sometimes it's unhappy and then turns happy. Find out which way it's going this morning. Phillip Statler from Statler Financial Services is here. Good morning, Phillip. How are you?
All right, man. Doing well today, Dave. It is halfway through the week, and we've got more financial news coming out today. And the question is, how is the market going to react, and what is the feeling as what the Fed's going to do in September?
And what the Fed's going to do in September, I've got some surveys that make absolutely no sense we can get to a little later on. But headline news for the morning is the Consumer Price Index in July. How'd we do? Is inflation under control? Well, they expected 0.2% increase in July and an annualized 3% increase in the rate of inflation, which basically was exactly what we got. 0.2% increase in the Consumer Price Index and a 3% annualized rate. The core came in as expected too, up 0.2%. Now, you annualize that, do 0.2% every month, you can annualize up to about 3% per year. And I don't know whether that's going to be enough to make the Federal Reserve happy or not come September, but it doesn't sound like investors are expecting anything else, does it?
Well, it's not. I mean, when that news first hit, we did see a slight drop in the futures to red across the board. However, now most of them have bounced back up to a slight tinge of green, except for the Dow. The Dow is still slightly in the red right now.
Okay, that does follow up a not bad day yesterday. We got to say, for truth in advertising, the Dow was up 409 points yesterday. Standard & Poor's was up 90. NASDAQ had a party. They were up 407 points. That was almost 2.5% in one day. It's kind of a party day, and the curves that I saw yesterday was pretty much a steady upward momentum through the day. So a little bit of, whoops, let's take some money off the table wouldn't necessarily be abnormal or bad news this morning, I got to assume.
No, it wouldn't. And let's just look at that. I mean, the numbers were pretty good yesterday, especially the NASDAQ. I was reading an article last night that was looking at after the close yesterday. The NASDAQ 100, it finished up 2.5% yesterday, and it's up 8% from the July 10th high, and it's up 5% since last week. So I'm going to tell you, the big winner yesterday, though, had to be Starbucks.
Oh, that's right. The CEO change. It made a big difference in their picture, didn't it?
They were up 24.5% yesterday.
Holy crap!
Just on a CEO change.
I mean, changes like that that's the kind of change you see when a company, introduces a brand new product that everybody's excited. It's almost an NVIDIA type swing, isn't it?
It is. And, the question is, can they hold on to? I know they're trading down just a tad this morning. So that's a lot of faith in the CEO.
I was going to say, I'm going to go out and buy 10 or 12 $4 cups of coffee on that news, I'll tell you. The other economic news that came out this morning is kind of interesting. The Mortgage Bankers Association reports the mortgage application index information. Originations of new mortgage applications up last week. We've got a long way to go to beat what we had even a year ago in terms of mortgage applications, but up is up. Refinance applications up 117% last week as mortgage rates went down to the quote and unquote lowest we've had in a year. And I mean, I don't consider 6.5% bargain basement, but compared to what some folks were paying a few months ago, I'd be tempted to refi too, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, that's a pretty steep decline. I don't know if it's within that 1% yet that you really look to make it cost effective for a refi, but obviously we may have some folks in there that again are having issues. We hit an all-time high of consumer credit, and so maybe credit cards are finally getting to the point where interest rates dropped enough that people are willing to go ahead and refi to take care of those high interest credit cards.
Yeah, they don't say in the reports that we get whether it's a cash out refi or simply
Right.
taking advantage of the lower rate, but it also could be that just even at these interest rate levels, if I can knock my payment back by $100 a month, even though it may not make good accounting good sense, that 1% rule of thumb that you and I always talk about, but it might actually make sense with with under a 1% drop if it changes your payment that much in a month, right?
Well, it could be. It could be a cash flow issue.
Always a possibility. Talking about the inflation number, that 3% annualized consumer price index, I found this kind of interesting. Bank of America put out their survey as to what investors think the economy is going to do. Are we going to do a soft landing from inflation? Are we going to crash and burn? Or are we going to have no landing and just have elevated inflation for the rest of our natural lives? The highest percentage, let me see, I got about 3 years, have the investor community right now thinking that we're actually going to achieve that soft landing. 76% of investors say they think we're actually going to achieve a soft landing from inflation this time, but I got to throw out the other side of the fence. The number of people who think we're going to crash and burn with a hard landing also increased from a low of 7% a couple of months ago up to 13% now. So the only real substantial change downward were the number of investors who thought we weren't going to land at all and keep inflation for the rest of our lives. But more folks think we're going to crash and burn, but the vast majority thinks we've actually achieved something that you and I would probably say merits a Nobel Prize for Economics for Jay Paulson if we actually manage a soft landing from this inflation spate.
Absolutely, Dave. I mean, if we can get a soft landing, it may be the first time in history. It probably will be the first time in history we've actually managed a soft landing when it comes to recessions and inflation.
Yeah, historically, I mean, if you only have a mild recession after you tighten money for a while, you consider it a soft landing. We might actually avoid anything that all economists would agree even is a recession from this, and you got to say, okay, fine. The odd part, though, and I was giggling about how, some optimistic investors, 60% of investors now say they expect 4 or more interest rate cuts this year, according to Bloomberg and Bank of America. There aren't even 4 more meetings left. I don't know what they're smoking, unless they're counting a half point in September as being 2 meetings for the price of 1.
I don't either. I mean, there's obviously you can't get that done in the number of meetings they actually have left, unless they think they're going to have an emergency meeting somewhere in between and lower rates.
And that rumor was out for about 24 hours a week or so ago when we had that little correction, and it didn't happen. So if it doesn't happen when the market drops by 10% in 2 days, and they don't call an emergency meeting, I don't see it happening anytime soon. Do you?
No, I don't either. Not at this point.
Absolutely. Other than that, we got a little dip, little recovery, and things are starting to improve a bit after a good day yesterday. Earnings season continues, and you mentioned you got a company that the name of it, I haven't heard beans, but I know they own a couple of products that we bought. What did Brinker International do last quarter?
So Brinker International, that's the holding company for Chili's and the likes of those restaurants. So they did not have a very good quarter. They earned $1.61 versus $1.72 that was expected. And they also came in and said, we're going to have weaker than expected full year earnings as well. And so they're really taking it on the chin this morning. They're down almost 13%.
I'm going to assume that means service of the bar is going to get even slower, huh?
Or prices are going to go up more too.
Kitchen's busy. Have another drink. We need to make more money.
Then we had Cardinal Health. They also reported they earned $1.84 versus $1.73 expected. Revenue was a little over $1 billion more than expected too. So they're trading up about 6.2% this morning as we get going. Not much else I have in terms of earnings. I do want to mention this. Kellanova, which I think is one of the splits. Kellogg must have done a split somewhere, and this is one of the splits because it's Pop-Tarts that I'm looking at here. They are going to be acquired by Mars for $83.50 a share. That's about a $36 billion deal and should close the first part of 2025. So that came out. And then the other one I hadn't, maybe this has been out there, I just haven't heard of it, but Alphabet, which is Google, under a little pressure from the Department of Justice about splitting some of their things up into separate entities. And the biggest thing I think they're looking at is taking Chrome browser and divesting it from Android operating system. Seems to be maybe one of the things they're looking at there. But that's got them trading down about 1%.
Yeah, between that and the antitrust lawsuit they lost a week or two ago over their search engine being too successful, they're not having a good day in court lately at all, are they?
No, they really haven't been. I wanted to mention this. I was reading this article last night too, if we got time. Just looking at airlines for this month so far, just this month so far, just August so far. Hawaiian Airlines is the only airline that's actually up. Their stock's up 10%. Southwest down 5.6. American Airlines stock down 7.8. Delta down 8.2. United down 9.9. Spirit down 15.6. JetBlue bringing in the bottom at down 28.7% so far in the month of August.
Kind of reinforces and confirms what we were talking about yesterday about the travel and leisure industry not having a good year, doesn't it?
Yeah. At least a bad second half of the year anyway.
Evidently, yeah. Hawaiian Airlines, Hawaiian being the exception, I guess. I mean, you can't go across the street in Hawaii except by air for all intents and purposes. I suppose that makes some sense as a regional, but still. Yeah. Not a fun time to own stock in airlines for this half of the year, anyway. Anyway, resetting the table. Equities had a pretty good day yesterday. 45 minutes before we opened this morning. How are we doing today?
There's a slight tinge of green in the futures. Now, whether that will transfer to green at the open, I'm not sure. But we got the Dow up like $16. The S&P 500 is up a little less than $8, and the NASDAQ 100 is up $33, which is still less than 0.2%. The Russell 2000 right now is a big winner, up about 0.5%. On the other side, we've got silver up 0.25%. Gold is flat right now, and crude oil up about 1/3% at $78.57 a barrel.
I'm taking some good news. It's a little better than my delayed quotes were. So it's a slight improvement anyway over what I had. Overseas markets, the Asian Rim market was a decidedly mixed bag. Japan was up. Mainland China was off, and the other markets were generally up yesterday. It was a decided mixed bag. Net, I guess you'd have to call it flat. European community is open, of course, right now, and across the European exchanges, they're having a reasonably decent day. Indexes generally up between a few hundredths of a percent to about 0.25%. Not exciting, but it's green ink, and we'll take that happily. If somebody want to get a look at how to make a retirement plan happen, maybe the equities aren't the first place you ought to be if you're getting close. There are alternatives. How do I find you to make a plan happen?
Dave, that's why I developed the core retirement design to help people design that retirement they always dreamed of. And give us a call at 863-382-0037 to schedule their core retirement analysis. And then join us this weekend for the Statler Financial Radio Show, 6 a.m. and noon on Saturday, 10 a.m. Sunday morning on Highlands News Talk, 7:30 a.m. and 95.3 FM.
And back here together again tomorrow morning about the same time. Thank you, Phillip. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Have a great day.
Be well. It's 105.7 Light FM and Statler Financial Services, Phillip Statler.
Hey, folks, again, I want to thank you for joining us. Have a great day, and I hope you'll join us again tomorrow. Take care. Bye now.